had some technical difficulties. I don't know what happened in the video editing of this one. Usually I do the valve body part of it first, but I didn't on this one, and somehow I lost video coverage, because what gets put on YouTube and what gets put on Patreon is totally different. Only on Patreon are you going to get the complete breakdown of the valve body with the spring sizes and how all the valves go. YouTube's only going to show the check ball locations and how to put stuff together, and stuff that you need to not go in depth into stuff. So somehow I ended up losing most of my footage. Don't know how it happened, but it happened. So this is not the valve body that got put in there, and the reason I ended up having to redo it is because I cannot find the video footage. So on the original valve body, usually I put a zip kit, Sonax zip kit in the valve bodies. Every once in a while I'll do the Transgo stuff. On this valve body here, I did not put the Sonax kit in it. I did put the end plugs in it, but I did not put the AFL valve or the converter valve in it. And the reason I didn't is because on the separator plate you have to drill a hole. I don't remember which one it is right off the top of my head. I want to say it's this one right here, because this one's been drilled. But on mine it looked different. The passageways look different, so I wasn't going to take a chance. If you on a Sonax kit, if you do not plug the hole, you're not going to have forward. So I don't want to take a chance on having problems. I just didn't need the problems at the time, so I put the Transgo valves in there and did not do the separator plate modification. Now on the Transgo kit, you have to ream this valve bore out, so it takes an extra tool, and I do have the tool to do it, so I just went ahead and did that one and put the valve in with the sealing ring on the lockup. I think that's about all I got to talk about there. Depending on which style you have, 5 or 6 check balls, one there, there, and here. 6 check ball right here if there's a hole in the plate. Alright, we got our plastic keepers right there and there to hold the plate on. I do have the original part where I put the accumulators in, so that part will be original valve body. 7mm that holds this on. Okay, half of the pump stuff is missing too, so I don't have the entire assembly that I can show, but we'll show as much as we can of it. Okay, as it stands at this moment, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I was going to put the Sonax valve in the AFL lineup, but the hole that they show to drill for this Gen 3 does not look the same. I'm pretty sure it's this hole right here, but I don't know. And they say if you don't plug it, you're not going to have forward. So seeing that the lineup does not look the same, I'm thinking I'm going to put the Transgo one in it and ream the bore out and put the Transgo one in, which is, I can't find the valve at this moment. I set it aside and I can't seem to find it. I don't know. I got too much stuff on my bench right now. So I'm going to leave the AFL valve alone, and we'll go continue on. Okay, we finally get some time without the radio playing out there. We can do something without that fan making all kinds of noise. So on these accumulators here, these are all worn out. And the Sonax kit is having you put these O-rings down on the bottom. And then putting the castle part looking up and the rounded edge down. The inner spring is going in, and then our accumulator with the open end facing down. And we got 5 of those. Make sure that these are all moving the way that they're supposed to. Alright, come on, get in there. This one's being a little cantankerous. Here we go. Alright, my rebuild kit has not showed up yet, so I'm not going to be able to put this plate down like it's supposed to be put down. Alright, there we go. Okay, so this plate has got these, it's the wrong plate. This plate has 2 rubber or plastic hold down pieces that pop into here. So when my kit shows up, I'll put those in there. Okay, we'll go on to the next part and we'll be back. Alright, depending on which plate you have, 5 or 6 check balls. There's one that goes here, one there, One there and one here. The sixth one goes here if you have a hole in the plate. I don't, so we don't have a check ball. Alright, still waiting on our kit. It's gonna be days. They still haven't ordered it apparently. So once we get those in, this plate will go on here. This will go on here like so. And a 7mm will hold this in right here. And our manual valve goes up here. Alright, we'll be back when we get our kit. Okay, this is the original pump. And the reason this is the original pump, there's a couple things you need to know, at least in my kit anyway, and it was a good kit. I only received the Type 2 gasket. You can see the difference in the Type 1 and the Type 2. Now you cannot use the Type 2 gasket on the Type 1 pump. You can, however, swap the Type 2 pump out for the Type 1. So since my kit did not have the gasket that belonged in there, I reused the gasket. It didn't work out very well. You can see where it's blown out right here. It didn't even make it off the lift. And it was torqued down properly, so don't nobody go saying that it wasn't torqued properly. It was, and I never suspected that this was the problem. So what it was doing is it never made it off the lift, like I said. When you put it in reverse, it no engagement. It would, in fact, the wheels would turn forward in reverse. When you put it in drive, it felt like it had an engagement. Probably did not. Not a good one anyway. You could feel it go in. It shifted through all the forward gears on the rack. But when you put it in reverse, the wheel still went forward. Now if you gave it gas, if you gave it enough gas, which I don't recommend you doing it, but if you did give it enough gas, the wheels were turning forward, and at a certain point it would bang and the wheels would start turning in reverse until you let off the gas. As soon as you let off the gas, it would slowly stop rolling, and then it would start going forward again. So we ended up pulling the valve body off of it. Couldn't find anything wrong with it. I put it back together. We started looking at maybe Tecum, and ended up putting a Tecum on it. Actually, we had put a used one on it because for some reason this unit sat here for about a month and waiting on the parts, and when the parts finally showed up, we put it in the vehicle, and the Tecum, nothing, was dead. It wouldn't even communicate for some reason. Between the time it came in and the time it sat here, the Tecum died. So we had a used one that we put on it, and that's when we came up with this problem. It would start, would communicate, but it had this problem. So we looked at maybe it was a programming issue. So we had it programmed, same thing, but then the theft light was coming on, but we still had the reverse problem. So I pulled the valve body back off again, scratching my head. I'm sitting here at the side of the bench, and I got the valve body sitting over here, and I happened to look up over at the valve body, and this is not it, but it's a little bitty hole, probably a little bit smaller than that one. And I see something, it looks like something sticking up out of it. Well, it was a piece of this rubber blocking an orifice, and I thought, okay, that's our problem. That's where it's at. Where the rubber come from, I didn't know. I thought maybe just didn't get flushed out properly or whatever. Cleared that out of there, still had the same issue. And I'm really scratching my head now at this point, and still didn't think to look here. I had a different valve body, stuck a different valve body, and still had the problem. I was like, well, I don't know. I thought maybe it was still a Tecum problem, so we got a brand new Tecum. We put on there, programmed it, still same issues, still throwing the theft light on, still going forward in reverse. So I was like, it has to be something that I created. So I mean, I took it all the way down. I'm checking every piece of rubber in this thing. Couldn't find anything. The last thing left was this pump. I pulled this out, and that's when I found that. Could not get the gasket by itself, so we had to buy a whole pump for it. I want to say it was like 230 bucks to get a pump, and it came with everything. Both halves, separator plate, the pump, came with everything. Everything but the chain and the guide and the front seal part. So when you're putting these pumps together, it's a short pin, and it's only shorter by a few thousandths. The shorter pin goes over here. Longer pin goes over here. Our guide goes with this dot up and over here. Now on the second design, I believe it had 2 holes. At the end of this, there'll be pictures of all this. I believe it had 2 holes. Our rotor goes with the spline side down. There is a dot. It goes up. We got our vanes. So I guess the long story short is don't try to reuse that gasket. If yours does not come with a type 1 gasket and you have a type 1 pump, just buy you a type 2. The valve's usually worn out. This dump valve's usually worn out. This one has a transgo one put in it. You got to ream it out also. And then it comes with a valve for the PR valve. Okay, now that's in there. We have our plate. This little deal goes over here. On the type 2 pump, it's different. It's like a little kind of rectangular hole right here. Then our gasket would go on top with the little leg facing over here, and our gasket with the 2 little tabs to line up on here. And then our pump goes on here. If you need to take this out, there's a seal here you need to replace. If you need to take this out, you're probably buying the whole thing anyway, but there is a snap ring, and it is super freaking hard to get off. That holds that bearing and shaft in there. These are 30 torques. I'm not going to bother to torque this down right now. I don't remember what it was. If I ever get a type 1 gasket, I'll put this together and have it a good pump. Okay, our separator plate. Now you can put this separator plate onto here if you want to. The check ball, 375 I believe is the size of it, goes right there. Also goes right there. On the front side are the shorter 30 Torx. When you tighten it up for real, start in the center, work your way out. I want to say it was something like 110 inch-pounds, so I may be wrong on that. It will be at the end. There is a sealing ring down on there. Just stretch it out, put it around there, put a hose clamp on it. There is a plastic washer that goes here. Then your chain and your two sprockets. There's a clip that holds the sprocket on down here. This sprocket goes with the line up. This one goes with the shiny side down, dark side up. On your guide for your front seal, fits on these two pins. Should fit fairly snug. There's a washer on the back side of it, O-ring on the top of that. There's a plastic guide, chain scoop, oil scoop that pops in these two holes right here. Then we have 30 Torx on the back. Back here we have a seal that presses into there. Make sure that that seal fits your shaft of your drum snugly. And then filter would go on here. A little tab of your filter is going to sit down right on top of here. Okay, I think we've covered all that we need to cover on this. Okay, on the drum out here, we have a lip seal D-shaped ring. The orange one goes on the top, black one goes on the bottom. On the inside in here we got a D-shaped one. Make sure that the rounded edge is on the outside. And then in your kit you may get two different lip seals. There's two different deals on this drum. There's an inner lip seal and then there's one that goes on the piston. This one we want the inner one, so we want the flat edge here and a rounded edge on that inside. If it was going on the piston, it would be opposite. Alright, come on, get up in the groove. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, on this one I use the press to press this down in there. It works really well. It'll slip right in there instead of trying to fight it on the way down. On on the piston here, we have another orange colored one. Make sure it's not rolled when you get it in there. And then when we get this in there, we got our return spring, our balance piston, and make sure that we don't roll the lip when we push this down into there. And we want the short end of the taper of our snap ring up towards us. We want the opening over in here somewhere. We can either put it right there, or we can put it, yeah, we wouldn't really want it there. We're going to put it right there. Let me set this off to the side because we got something else to do here. We've got our cushion plate. We've got our steels, and our clutches. Our pressure plate with this side up. We've got our snap ring, short end of the taper up towards us again. Okay. Now, we'll lube this all up. We have our return spring. We'll make sure when we go down with this that we don't roll that lip. This little tab has to go right here. And we only want to push this down far enough to get the snap ring in. If you just keep pushing down, you will snap that tab off. So we want the short end of our taper up again. Of course, the opening is going to have to be right there. Let me go ahead and do the center support. And do all this at the same time. When we come back, I'm going to change camera angles, and we'll be putting this all in the case. There's my return spring. So this one's going to go on here, short end of the taper up again, and we're going to put the opening in between. Return spring for that, or bevel plate for that. Short end of our taper up again. It may be a little hard to tell. It's not as critical on these. And then we're going to put the opening in between again. Once I get all that done, we'll be putting this in the case. Alright, I forgot, needed to show this. This would be better being a close-up view. So we got our bearing that goes on there, our hub, our shaft, snap ring with the short end of the taper up. popped it in. Okay, so I just pop it in with a screwdriver. You can put it in with a pair of snap ring pliers if you want. We got steel alternator clutches and steels up. Snap ring. Okay, looking good. Our bearing. Okay, now we're going to change camera angles and we'll be in the case. Okay, the way I do my lever seals, if you have the early rubber ones, it's really easy. You can just pop them out and put them in. These metal clad ones are a little bit different. I just get a hill bar, get in here underneath this nail, pop your nail up, get you a pair of end cutters. Do not try to drive this roll pin out that other way. You're going to regret it. So get you a pair of end cutters, get on here and just grab it and work it out. And you can pull your shaft out. Linkage will come out. Then you can get a hill bar or whatever you want in here and pop the seal out. You can even get in here with the screwdriver and just bend it over just without screwing anything up. Just don't go down into the case. This one's being a real snot. Anytime you put anything on camera, trust me, it gets exponentially harder. Go ahead and lube up our linkage seal. And we'll just get a socket and go around that. Okay, then you just reverse the order. Put your nail in. Some kits you're gonna get a new nail and a new roll pin. If you do, you can change them out. Don't have to get radical about how far you put this thing in there. You want to be back far enough with the nail that it doesn't interfere with anything. Now the roll pin, you're going to only want to put it about halfway through. Don't drive it all the way flush. You're going to have some sticking out each end of it. Kind of try to pay attention to how far it was before. And then just go that far. Okay. Lube up our case. Lube up our piston. And in your piston there is a bleed hole. I don't know how well you can make that out. It needs to be pointed at the top of the case so it can vent the air. Our bevel plate. Now this thing can be pretty fun to get in there. They do make a tool for it. I do not have it. It's quite a bit harder to put in than the 6F35s. It likes to pop out a lot on you as compared to the 6F35. So this camera is going to be right in my way. I'm just going to tell you how it's going to be done, and then I'm going to have to move the camera. The opening needs to be down here at this opening. Is where they show it. I'm going to try to put our bleed piston, our bleed hole up here, bevel plate on, then our opening of our snap ring down here. Try to put as much of a lug on your snap ring as you can. Like that's a little off. I need to come over just a little bit. Probably going to try to put that right there. Alright, let me get this in and move my camera, and I'll be back. Okay, the important thing is to make sure that once the snap ring is in there, it is all the way back. So to resize your rings on the stator, you can just take your rings and stretch them. They do make a tool for it. You just stretch them out enough to get them around this, get it into the groove. And then this here happens to be a E40D 4R100, the large tail shaft bushing. I just cut it in half, cut it on the seam where it's put together, and then get you a hose clamp. It resizes these really nice. This will only line up one, well, I shouldn't say will only line up one direction. You want to make sure that your feed holes are lined up with your feed holes. As soon as I say it, you can only do it one way. Somebody will find a way to do it wrong. Trust me, I see it all the time. .106 inch-pounds on that. Alright, then our bearing is going to go flat side up. Our 3/5 reverse 4/5/6 drum. Sit down on top, make sure our bearing's on top. Our sun shell. Our cushion plate. Our steels, we got 2 tabs, big space. 2 tabs, big space. Alright, you can do this one of 2 ways. If you got something big enough, you can measure from the ledge here to your clutch and get your clearance. Or you can put your clutch down and put your steel on top. That'll make it easier to get to the edge, measure your clearance. Our sprag assembly. I normally mark these. Let's see if I did mark this one. Just to make it easier to put it in when I put it in. Okay, it looks like I did not mark it, so we're just going to have to trial and error. It'll only fit in one way. It just makes it quicker if you mark it. Right there. Alright, and we got our steel. Our 2 tabs are going to go here. Now you can check your clearance on your support beforehand. I'll show you in just a second. You can check both of these on this one here, stack it up, and then measure from the tips here. Actually, yeah, measure from the tip here down to your pressure plate, and that's what your clearance is going to be on this one on the back side here. You can stack it on here, and you measure in between the plate and the clutch. Okay, our center support feed holes have to face here, long feet down. Try to go as straight as you possibly can. Actually, I should have put my Gen 3s a little different. Should have put my Planet on. On the earlier ones, you could put this in afterwards. And I should have paid attention to how I had it. There we go. Make sure our Planet is splined into the sprag there. Like I said, on the earlier ones, you could just slide the Planet down and from the top once you put the sprag in. Okay, now our support. Try to go as straight as you can. Come on. Why are we fighting? There we go. I have this bearing. I have this bearing. We have our Planet. Our sun gear, it does not specify which way it goes. The ID marks on the outside here are closest to the bottom, so the ID mark goes up. There's ID marks on your Planet gears here. It kind of puts them in the same spot. This bearing, this bearing, there's sun shell here. This bearing is going to go on top. There we go. Two fingers here again. They'll only line up one way. It's just so you don't have to fight it so much. Now you'll notice that there's a lug missing here. This little lineup goes right here. They say as long as you're not missing more than one lug, you'll be okay. So I'm going to move over just a little bit so we're further back that way. Our beveled snap ring taper goes up, I'm going to put the opening right in there. And this is a stout snap ring, so be careful that it don't come flying out on you and pop you in the face. I think we'll be okay. On your bushing over here, I put the Supplier kit in. It has a notch in the bushing. Make sure that your notch is lined up with the slot here and that it is down below this little portion right here. You want to make sure it's not blocked off. Let's see. Oil slinger. Make sure and get the right seal for our oil trough. Let's get a picture of that. Our park. It's going to go up here. Our spring's going to hook around here and here. Our pivot pin. And make sure that it is working the way it's supposed to. We have our bearing. We have our gear. And we want to make sure, I guess I better take that back off. We want to make sure that we get all the way down. Our chain is going to go with the blue links up. This gear is going to go on the back side here. And we got to kind of all go down at the same time. Alright, now we got to lift up just a little bit so we can get this in there. Sun gear. Bearing goes just like that. Plastic washer. Make sure it pops down into place. You can put it like that. That's going to be wrong. Differential. Bearing. Gasket. Our seals. Find you something to fit around your axle seal. This happens to be an old bearing race, and fits really nice. Now, that seal that we had before. Alright, our pump assembly from before. Make sure our chain is on there. Make sure our gear is down in there. Our seal is in there. Our rubber seal is on here. Make sure that's down all the way. Okay, we got our seal for our filter. Our filter has to come, and this little tab's going to sit right there. I'm sorry, on right here. Here we go. And our cover. $13 millimeters. Oil baffle, 210 millimeters. All right, 89 inch-pounds plus an additional 45 degrees. And since I didn't have it when we did the pump, I'm going to change the seal out because I forgot about it since I've already done all the rest of it. That's what happens when stuff sits for a while. You get part of it done and not all of it. Give that a little lube. Okay, I believe we're ready to put this on. Once you put this on, the bolts for the case are these 13 millimeters, 89 inch-pounds. When you put your torque converter in, this is the way it's supposed to be sitting. Straight up like this, put two, we just use converter bolts to hold it, and set your converter down in straight. It's your fill plug that you can use if you want to. I don't know why they put it in there. Fill it up right there. They do give you a new one, do replace it because it shrinks and lets water in. Make sure it's all the way in, and then push that down and seat it in there. Okay, I think what we're gonna need to do is change camera angles. It'll give you a better view of what's gonna be going on. I'm gonna go ahead and put the fill plug in here and change the camera angle, and we'll be hopefully getting a better view down here. Alright, probably gonna have to keep moving this back and forth because there's no way for me to see what I'm doing with the camera over here. So I'm just gonna have to explain it and then move it and do it and then show you. Okay, so we got our input speed sensor, our output speed sensor, I'm sorry, 10 millimeter that goes on here. I'm going to move this wire up into that spot right there. Let this hang here. We got two rubber seals that go on here. You can lube these up if you want to. We got our separator plate that goes in here. Our valve body is going to go on. Our manual valve has to line up on the shaft right there. We got these 10 millimeters. They're all the same size. They're all going to go on the outside and down in here. All the rest of this, all up in here, is for to protect them, so nothing goes there.
I got a bearing kit coming for this thing. I don't see it, but that's really that good. That's over there now.
Do you want me to put the bearings on it?
Yeah, let's go ahead and just tell the guy that we saw some bearing issues with it. I'm gonna call him today and let him know there were just some bearings that could be making a noise in there. I gotta put it back together before I know. So that's what I tell him.
Alright, 97 inch-pounds on those. Now's a good time to make sure that your pin or your nail is not in the way of your linkage. We have our detent. Those little tabs are going to go in that hole. This roller has to go inside your neutral switch, otherwise it will not work. 8mm on this. We have a seal like this, only fits on there one way properly. These two tabs go in these holes down here. Our speed sensor pops into right there. Alright, this little dude right here. I should have missed it. There we go. And a little dude right there. And put your Tecum on. There are two lineup locating pins. 7mm on the computer part of it. 10mm everywhere else. They're all the same size. Alright, plug in your input speed sensor, output speed sensor, neutral switch, push your locking tab over, change your seal, change your seal on your pin. 8 millimeters on these, and you're going to need to go over it several times, and there's a tightening sequence, but basically just start in the center, crisscross, work your way out. 89 inch-pounds. And we are finished. Okay, on our accumulator we have this flat gasket goes on there. $16 foot-pounds on the 13 millimeter bolts. Alright, there was 2 different seals. They gave 2 small and 2 large. The large one was over here, the small one was over here. And let's see, get this the right way. 2 13 millimeter bolts on that again. $16 foot-pounds on these also. And it should be it for this unit. Oh, God dang it. I'm going to take them back off. Trying to get stuff ready for the camera, and you forget other things that you're supposed to be concentrating on.